right, first let me say thank you, Mark, for coming in to do this interview with us today.
Sure.
We appreciate it. And can you just tell me your understanding of the video and why we're doing it?
From what I understand, the video is to maybe show people who aren't familiar with the symptoms of schizophrenia what people like me go through, and maybe how it starts and how it progressed, and like how I've dealt with it most of my life, including the treatment stage when I decided to get treatment and how that's affected me.
How old were you when you first started experiencing symptoms? What were you doing in life? And what was that like for you?
Well, I remember being about 12, 11 or 12 when I started to make the distinction that, I mean, you know how you think, and you might think thoughts, and think aloud and stuff. I started to realize that I was having like commands and things in my head that weren't coming from me, like consciously. And I don't know. At first, I kind of dismissed them. I didn't know anything about. I'm a kid. So I'm thinking, well, that's just the way it is. But in time, it got worse, and it was one voice at first, and it was like a commentary on
Okay.
what I was doing, what my mood was, what I was thinking about, things I was planning, and they were never good things.
Okay.
They were always bad things that put me down. And
So as a teenager, early teenager, 12,
yeah,
13
13,
years,
yeah.
how often was that going on at that time?
Well, it was going on every day, even younger than that. But it wasn't until I was 12 that I really started to make the distinction, that there's something intrusive there that I could hear. I mean, I couldn't hear audibly like I'm talking to you, but it was in my head. And
So you didn't hear something in your ear. It was kind of like there was
yeah,
thoughts in your head that
there were
weren't
thoughts
your thoughts.
in my head that were not mine. Yeah. And I don't know. It became disconcerting. I was in school, and that's kind of like an awkward time when you're trying to be accepted and all of this, and you're trying to find yourself. And the voices would like chime in with all this negative stuff, about making associations, or like talking to girls, or like trying to achieve things that I wanted to achieve in school. And I guess when I was 15 or 16, I came to the point that something really wasn't right. I remember going to the library in school, and I got the dictionary or encyclopedia, and I looked up mental illnesses, and they were really kind of vague, but I concentrated on the voices. And it had something about schizophrenia, but what it had wasn't me. I mean, the description it gave were like people that were really disjointed and couldn't hold conversations, and it wasn't me at all, aside from the voices. So I didn't think that applied to me, and I really didn't try to investigate it anymore.
How much of the day, when this was going on, when you were a young man
Yeah.
in school, how much of the day did you have these thoughts that weren't your thoughts?
Almost all the time. I find that it didn't chime in so much when I was really, really mentally involved in something, like totally focused on something. But otherwise, when I was idle, or, just doing normal things, that's when it would chime in. And of course, I didn't want to tell anybody, because then I knew that there was something really not right with me. And my mom wasn't right either. She had some mental issues.
So can you just tell me a little bit about how did you distinguish, like, you telling yourself something negative about yourself? Because people beat themselves up in their own head.
Yeah.
How did you distinguish that it wasn't your thought?
Because I think that like when you're in reflection, and you're thinking about something that you did. I don't know. That comes from me. It's I don't want to say objective, but how to say it? It comes from me,
Mm-hmm.
and I can stop it if I want to.
Yeah.
I can stop the thought,
Mm-hmm.
or even
Mm-hmm.
try and change what it's thinking about by trying to think of something optimistic.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't like that at all. This is like something separate and apart.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Something you have no control over, or
yeah,
okay.
yeah, yeah. It's almost like there's somebody else in there,
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
um, I just had no control over it,
Mm-hmm.
other than other than to talk back at it, or to really totally focus on something,
Mm-hmm.
100%. It would make the voice go down a little. But for the most part, it was there most of the day,
Okay.
and it wasn't all the time. Um, but at strategic times, like usually when I was thinking, or I was planning something,
Mm-hmm.
or I was thinking about doing something, it would chime in and give me just a lot of negative stuff.
Okay.
Um,
And when you say you talk back to them, what kind of things would you say back?
I would say the opposite of what they were telling me. Like if it was telling me, you can't do that, you aren't
Mm-hmm.
smart enough, and I would say, no, you're wrong. I am smart enough, and I can do it, and you're wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever it said, I would say the opposite of it,
And
and
you would say it out
to
loud?
say it audibly. It didn't stop them, but it
Okay.
seemed to make me feel better.
It was a
Um,
relief on your part.
yeah, but
Okay.
it didn't seem to stop them at all.
Mm-hmm.
No, no. But it seemed to make me feel better, like I had a little bit of control over
Mm-hmm.
what was going on.
Okay.
Um,
Mark, can I stop you there?
yeah.
When this was happening, how did you react when you had these thoughts? Were you afraid? Did you run and hide? And how, as a young man at 12 or 13, how did you
No.
handle that?
Well, I mean, like I say, it didn't all start at once.
Mm-hmm.
It was happening a little before, but when I got 12 or 13, I started making the distinction that,
Mm-hmm.
this isn't something my conscious thought that I can control.
Okay.
And actually, the realization was really kind of gradual.
Mm-hmm.
So by the time I was like 15 or 16, and I realized that there was something wrong upstairs, um, on the outside, I was pretty well acclimated to it.
Okay.
I mean, I wouldn't go in a fit and hide in a closet
Mm-hmm.
or something. But sometimes it would be overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
Like in class, it would chime in. And I'd say something under my breath to them.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Was it hard to focus? And,
yeah, it was hard to focus and it was hard to concentrate when they were chiming because it was very disturbing.
mm-hmm.
I don't know, it just came and went, and it just got worse over time. Progressively, little by little, and
Mm-hmm.
uh, gee, when I was 17, I started drinking.
Mm-hmm.
And I found that helped a little.
Okay.
It did.
So a
Uh,
little self-relief, self-medication.
yeah, yeah. Although the next day it was much
Mm-hmm.
worse. It would be better if I had not drank. But for a
So,
while, it
mm-hmm.
alleviated the symptoms while I was doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
When did you seek professional help or see a professional
I
about
went
this?
through it all these years, and of course, it progressed into more of a real depression and paranoia type of thing. And
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't until I was about 38 or 39
Okay.
that I came to the realization, to like drop to like don't be afraid of the stereotype, and if there's something I can do medically
Mm-hmm.
to alleviate these, then I was going to pursue it. And that's when I went to the VA and my started my
Mm-hmm.
psychiatric treatment.
39.
39,
Wow.
yeah, about 15 years ago. Yeah.
It's a long time.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I mean, I wish I had done it earlier, but there was the stereotype, and
Mm-hmm.
I had a lot of pride, and
Mm-hmm.
you know, but it wasn't worth the symptoms that I was having. They got much worse as I got older.
Mm-hmm.
I guess.